Hyun walked slowly through the big doors of the Galactic Academy. His old leather bag hung from one shoulder. All around him, young aliens rushed by. Some had blue skin. Others had 4 arms. A few even floated instead of walked. Hyun kept his eyes down, and his face blank. "Excuse me," said a voice like metal scraping on glass. A tall, thin alien with green scales stopped in front of him. "You must be the new human student. I am Professor Excel. Welcome to the Academy." Hyun bowed slightly. "Thank you. I'm just looking for my room." The professor handed him a small, clear tablet. "Your map is here. Your roommate will help you adjust." The alien walked away quickly, already talking to someone else. Hyun looked at the map and sighed. The academy was huge, 5 towers connected by glass bridges, with gardens and small lakes between them. This was nothing like the bare military bases he knew. As he walked, young aliens stared at him. Some pointed and whispered. Humans were still rare in space. Most aliens had never seen one in real life. "Look at how it moves," said one blue-skinned student to another. "So stiff and slow. Primitives." Hyun heard them, but showed no reaction. He had heard worse. He had done worse. When he reached his room, the door slid open on its own. Inside, a young man with black hair looked up from a floating screen. "You must be Hyun." The young man smiled and bowed. "I'm Tahoe. I'm human too, but I was born on New Seoul Station. My parents were from old Earth, though." Hyun nodded and put his bag down. "Nice to meet you." "Let me help you set up," Tahoe said, grabbing Hyun's tablet. "The tech here can be tricky if you haven't used it before." Hyun watched as Tahoe's fingers flew over the screen. The young man talked fast, explaining the meal system, class schedules, and social groups. Hyun nodded occasionally, his eyes taking in every detail of the room. Windows that could become screens, furniture that changed shape based on needs, security systems that scanned everyone who entered. "How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?" Tahoe said suddenly. "Most students start here right after basic education." 43, Hyun said. Tahoe's eyes widened. "Wow, that's unusual. What did you do before this?" "Administrative work. For Earth government." Hyun turned away. "Where do I store my things?" Later that day, they went to the welcome dinner. The main hall was filled with students from 100 worlds. Food of every color and smell sat on long tables. Music that didn't sound like music to human ears played softly. Hyun sat quietly, eating little. His back straight, his movements exact. A group of large reptile-like aliens at a nearby table kept looking at him. "Those are Draxians," Tahoe whispered. "Very militaristic society. They think humans are weak. Best to avoid them." One of the Draxians stood up and walked over. His scales were dark red, with black markings that looked like scars. "So this is what Earth sends us now," he said, his voice deep. "An old, soft human. At least send your warriors if you want respect." Hyun looked up slowly. For just a moment, something cold and hard flashed in his eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by polite confusion. "I'm just here to learn," he said simply. The Draxian laughed and walked away. In her office, Director Solvin, a tall blue-skinned woman with silver eyes, looked at Hyun's file on her screen. There wasn't much. Age, 43. Place of birth, Earth, Asian region. Previous occupation, administrative worker, Earth Defense Department. Education, basic. "Something isn't right," she murmured. "Why would Earth send someone like this now?" She sent a request for more information to Earth. Then she closed the file and forgot about it. After all, one quiet, middle-aged human was the least of her concerns in an academy full of the galaxy's most promising young minds. She had no idea what had just walked through her doors. 3 weeks passed. Hyun settled into a routine at the academy. He woke each day before dawn, something his body still did after years of military life. He would sit by the window, watching the 3 moons of this planet fade as the sun rose. Then he would do simple exercises in his room, careful to make them look like basic stretches when Tahoe woke up. In classes, Hyun sat in the back. He spoke only when called on. His written work was perfect, showing deep understanding of peace theories and diplomatic history. But in practical classes, he pretended to struggle with alien technology. "No, not like that," said Professor Lax during tactical communications class. The tall, 4-armed teacher sighed as Hyun fumbled with the holographic controls. "Humans really are behind the rest of us, aren't they?" Some students laughed. Hyun nodded and tried again, making the same mistake. Only he knew that he could take apart and rebuild this entire system in minutes if needed. After class, a small alien with purple skin and large yellow eyes approached him. Her name was Sunwoo, from a race known for their quick minds. "You're not really that bad with tech, are you?" she asked, her head tilted to one side. Hyun blinked. "What do you mean?" "Your fingers. They move too precisely to be clumsy. And sometimes you start to do things the right way. Then stop yourself." She smiled. "Don't worry. I won't tell anyone." Before Hyun could answer, she walked away. He watched her go, his face calm but his mind racing. He would need to be more careful. That night, the dreams came again. They always did, eventually. "Hold the line at Sector 7. Hyun shouted in his sleep. "Redirect forces to coordinates 34 to 8912. Operation Blackstone is still active." Tahoe shook him awake. "Hyun, you're having a bad dream." Hyun sat up quickly, his body tense and ready for action. For a moment, his eyes were those of a predator. Then he remembered where he was. "Sorry," he said, lying back down. "Just a dream about my old job. Paperwork problems." Tahoe looked confused. "You were shouting military coordinates." "I worked near a military base. Must have heard it there." Hyun turned away. "Go back to sleep." The next day in combat theory class, the teacher showed old battle footage from wars across the galaxy. "These primitive tactics from the Earth-Crax's conflict show why humans barely survived their first contact war," the teacher said. On the screen, soldiers fought a losing battle against alien forces. Hyun watched without expression, though his hands gripped his desk tightly. He had been there, on that very battlefield. The footage didn't show what happened next, how his surprise flanking maneuver had turned the tide. "Any thoughts, Hyun?" the teacher asked. "This is your species' history, after all." "They should have retreated," Hyun said softly. "Regrouped at a better position." "Exactly. Even this human can see the mistakes," the teacher laughed. After class, Vraxin, the large Draxian student, blocked Hyun's way in the hall. "Human," he growled. "Our physical combat tournament starts tomorrow. My team needs one more opponent to crush. You will join the games." Hyun shook his head. "I'm not a fighter." Vraxin laughed, his sharp teeth gleaming. "All beings must know their strength and their place in the universe, or are humans afraid to learn how weak they truly are?" "Leave him alone," Tahoe said, joining them. "He doesn't have to fight if he doesn't want to." "Hiding behind a younger human," Vraxin mocked. "Pathetic." Hyun's eyes narrowed slightly. In his mind, he saw 14 ways to take down the Draxian in seconds. Weak points in the scales, the poor balance on their left side, their slow reaction to low attacks. Instead, he lowered his eyes. "Sorry, I'm just here to study." Vraxin walked away, laughing with his friends. But Sunwoo, who had watched the whole thing, saw something the others missed. For just a moment, Hyun had shifted his weight, ready to move with deadly purpose. Then he had forced himself to stop. Sunwoo smiled to herself. The quiet human was becoming more interesting every day. The zero-gravity training room was one of the largest spaces in the academy. Today, 30 students floated inside the vast dome, practicing movement techniques. Magnetic boots and small hand thrusters helped them navigate. For many alien species, zero gravity was natural. For humans, it remained a challenge. Hyun moved slowly, pretending to struggle. In truth, he had spent years training soldiers for space combat. Zero gravity was like a second home to him. "Watch this," Vraxin called out to his friends. The Draxian spun himself toward Hyun and accidentally knocked into him hard. Hyun let himself tumble away, his face showing confusion. Inside, he counted the seconds of his spin, already calculating how to stabilize. But he didn't need to. Taeho flew over and helped him stop. "Just ignore them," Taeho said. Professor Mozzie, a cloud-like being who floated naturally, called for attention. "Today we practice rescue operations. Imagine you must save injured comrades during a space station emergency." The class broke into teams. Hyun joined with Taeho and Sunwoo. Their task was to retrieve dummy bodies from a simulated damaged section. "This will be hard," Sunwoo said. "We need to calculate thrust vectors while carrying extra mass." Hyun nodded, saying nothing. This was basic training for Earth's space forces. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. Red lights flashed throughout the dome. "That's not part of the exercise," Professor Mozzie said, her voice tight. "The gravity control system is malfunctioning." The professor's words were barely out when the artificial gravity began cycling on and off. Students screamed as they were pulled down to the floor, then thrown up again as the gravity disappeared. Equipment broke free from walls, becoming dangerous projectiles flying across the room. "Everyone stay calm," Professor Mozzie called, but panic had already set in. 3 young Hylian students with their delicate crystal bodies smashed into a wall. A Draxian student's magnetic boot malfunctioned, sending him spinning toward sharp equipment. Without thinking, Hyun's entire demeanor changed. His back straightened, his eyes sharpened, his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Silence," he barked in a tone that had once commanded thousands of soldiers. Everyone froze, instinctively responding to the authority in his voice. "You and you," Hyun pointed to 2 strong students. "Secure that broken panel before it comes completely loose." Sunwoo, calculate the gravity cycle timing and announce the pattern. Taeho, gather the injured by the north wall. To everyone's surprise, they obeyed without question. Hyun pushed himself precisely through the air, using the changing gravity to his advantage. He caught the spinning Draxian student just before he hit the equipment rack. With one powerful movement, he redirected their course toward the safe zone. 5 seconds gravity on, 3 seconds off. Sunwoo called out. "Everyone move during the off cycles," Hyun commanded. "Brace during gravity on." For 5 minutes, Hyun coordinated the entire class with military precision. His movements were perfect, using minimal energy for maximum effect. When a large piece of ceiling broke loose, threatening to crush several students, Hyun calculated its trajectory instantly. He used his body as a springboard against the wall, intercepted the debris, and kicked it toward an empty area. When emergency teams finally arrived, they found all 30 students safe, organized in groups, with the injured already receiving basic care. Professor Mozzie stared at Hyun. "How did you?" Hyun's face immediately returned to its usual mild expression. I just remembered some safety videos from Earth. Lucky guess on what to do." But he could tell by their faces that his cover had cracked. He had moved too well, commanded too naturally. Even now, the students still looked to him for guidance rather than their teacher. Director Solvin arrived, surveying the damage. Her silver eyes lingered on Hyun. "Interesting," she said quietly. "Very interesting indeed." Back in her office later, a secure message waited. It was the background check on Hyun she had requested 3 weeks ago. The message contained only 5 words. "Information classified. High East security illegal." The Academy News Network was small but active. In a quiet corner of its office, Ji-won sat staring at her screen. The young human woman had come to the Academy to study journalism, and she had just found her big story. Who are you really, Hyun? She whispered, looking at his academy ID photo. After the zero-gravity room incident, everyone talked about the quiet human who had saved 30 students. Juwon wanted to know more. She had searched public records but found almost nothing about Hyun before he came to the academy. Just an administrative worker. She shook her head. No office worker moves like that or commands a room full of panicked students. She tried searching Earth's military records from the past 30 years. Most were open to the public due to transparency laws. But when she entered Hyun's name and estimated age range, she hit a wall. Access as DNID. Records classified. Juwon smiled. Even a denial was information. Something about Hyun was important enough to hide. Meanwhile, in the dining hall, Hyun sat with Taho and Sunwoo. Since the accident, more students had started sitting near them. Some even asked Hyun questions, which he answered simply and briefly. The annual war games start next week, Taho said, excited. Each house team competes in strategy and tactics. I'm in House Blue. I'm in House Blue too, Sunwoo added. Hyun, which house are you in? Also blue, Hyun said quietly. He had hoped to avoid the games. Pretending to be bad at combat theory in class was one thing. Actually playing war games was another. Great, Taho grinned. We'll be on the same team. Vraxin walked by their table. Since Hyun had saved one of his friends in the zero-gravity room, the Draxian had stopped his direct bullying. But he still looked at Hyun with suspicion. Human, Vraxin said, my house red will crush your team in the games. Don't think saving a few students makes you a warrior. After Vraxin left, Sunwoo leaned closer to Hyun. You don't want to play in the games, do you? Hyun looked at her. Is it that obvious? To me, yes. She tapped her large yellow eyes. My people see patterns others miss. You avoid anything that might show your real skills. Hyun started to deny it, but Sunwoo raised her hand. Don't worry. Your secret is safe, whatever it is. That evening, Director Solvin called Hyun to her office. When he arrived, he found another visitor already there. A tall, blue-skinned military officer with silver stars on his uniform. Hyun, this is General Kraz of the Galactic Council Defense Force. Director Solvin said. He's here to observe our war games. The general stared at Hyun with narrowed eyes. Have we met before, human? Hyun kept his face blank. I don't believe so, sir. Strange. You seem familiar. The general circled Hyun slowly. I was at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. Many humans fought there. I wouldn't know, sir. I worked in administration. The general stopped. Administration. With your abilities during the zero-gravity incident. Just lucky, sir. After an uncomfortable silence, Director Solvin dismissed Hyun. As he walked back to his room, Hyun's mind raced. General Kraz had indeed been at Proxima Centauri. Hyun remembered the alien officer's ship from the battle displays. If Kraz connected the dots. When Hyun reached his room, Taho rushed up to him. Bad news. Jin from our War Games team broke his arm. We need a fourth player, or we're disqualified. Hyun's heart sank. When do the games start? Tomorrow, Taho said. Please say you'll join us. We've worked so hard. Hyun wanted to say no. He needed to keep a low profile now more than ever. But Taho's pleading face made it impossible. Fine, Hyun sighed. But I'm not very good at strategy games. Taho hugged him. Thanks. We don't expect to win anyway. It's just for fun. As Taho walked away, Hyun stared out the window at the night sky. The stars looked just like they had from his command ship all those years ago. The war games wouldn't be just for fun once they started. He knew himself too well. The question was, how much of General Park could he keep hidden when faced with battle, even a simulated one? The Academy's main hall had been transformed. Hundreds of floating screens showed maps and battle areas. Students from all 6 houses filled the room, wearing their team colors. House Blue's teams wore dark blue vests over their uniforms. Hyun stood quietly with Taho and Sunwoo as their fourth teammate, a tall bird-like alien named Koru. He explained the game rules. Each team controls virtual forces on these maps, Koru said, pointing to a screen. We make decisions in real time. The computer shows what happens based on our choices. Like a video game, Taho asked. More complex, Sunwoo said. The simulation uses real physics and combat data from actual battles. Hyun looked at the maps. They were using real star systems and planet configurations. This was no simple game. This was almost exactly like the battle simulators he had trained his officers on. Director Solvin stood on a platform and raised her hands. Welcome to the 83rd Annual Academy War Games. Remember, this is about strategy and teamwork, not just victory. In the crowd, Hyun spotted General Kraz watching him. The general's eyes never left him. The first round was simple. Each team had to capture territory while defending their base. Many teams tried bold attacks and lost quickly. When it was House Blue's turn, Taho suggested a direct approach. We should attack through this valley here, he said, pointing at the map. Hyun almost corrected him immediately but caught himself. Maybe, he said softly. But what if we tried? He made a small suggestion about their unit placement, making it sound like a question. That's a good idea, Sunwoo said, studying the map. Let's try Hyun's way. Their team advanced cautiously, using terrain for cover, just as Hyun had suggested. They won their first round easily. That was amazing. Taho cheered. We never win first rounds. As the day went on, House Blue kept winning. Each time, Hyun would make a small suggestion, always acting unsure. Sunwoo would support the idea, and the team would succeed. By the end of day one, their team had reached the quarterfinals, something no one expected. We might actually have a chance, Koru said, his feathers fluffed with excitement. That night, in their room, Taho couldn't stop talking about the games. How did you know those strategies would work, Hyun? You said you weren't good at this. Just lucky guesses, Hyun said. Your leadership made the difference. But Taho wasn't convinced. Some of those moves were brilliant. The way you knew exactly where the enemy would be weak. Hyun changed the subject quickly. The next day, House Blue faced House Red in the semifinals. Vraxin led the red team, and he looked angry when he saw Hyun. That human is cheating somehow, Vraxin said loudly to his teammates. No administrative worker knows battle strategy like that. The match began. This time, the simulation was more complex, a space battle around a planet with 3 moons. House Red started aggressively, pushing House Blue back. We're losing, Taho said, frantically moving their units. Wait, Hyun said. He studied the map. They've left this section open. If we send a small force here while appearing to retreat. The team followed his plan. Within 10 minutes, they had surrounded House Red's main force. Vraxin slammed his fist on the control panel. Impossible. After the match, Vraxin confronted Hyun in a quiet hallway. You, he growled. You're not what you pretend to be. To everyone's surprise, Hyun spoke to Vraxin in perfect Draxian language. His pronunciation was flawless, using military dialects only warriors would know. A true warrior respects his opponent instead of making excuses, Hyun said in Draxian. Your ancestors would be ashamed. Vraxin stepped back, shocked. How do you know our warrior speech? Who are you? Before Hyun could answer, alarms blared throughout the academy. The public address system activated. Warning. Training drones have malfunctioned. They have entered combat mode with live weapons. All students take shelter immediately. Through the windows, Hyun saw 20 combat drones flying toward the main hall where most students were still gathered for the war games. Their weapons were powered up and ready to fire. The real battle was about to begin. Screams filled the main hall as students saw the combat drones approaching through the large windows. The 20 machines flew in perfect formation, their weapons glowing red with power. "Everyone get down," a teacher shouted, but panic had already taken over. Students ran in all directions, blocking exits and creating chaos. Hyun stood still, his eyes tracking the drone's flight pattern. These were TK-80 models, standard military training units. He knew their weaknesses, their targeting systems, their attack protocols. He had helped design the countermeasures against them during the war. In that moment, Hyun made a choice. Keeping his secret wasn't worth the lives of these students. The quiet, humble mask fell away. His back straightened. His eyes hardened. When he spoke, his voice carried the unmistakable tone of absolute command. Silence. The single word cut through the panic like a blade. Everyone froze. All students with flight ability moved to Section C, armored species, to the front by the doors. Those with technical skills, gather here. Hyun pointed to spots around the room, instantly creating a defensive structure. Nobody questioned him. Not even the teachers. There was something in his voice that demanded obedience. "Sir, what's the plan?" Taho asked, suddenly treating Hyun like an officer. "Those drones are programmed to target the largest groups first," Hyun explained quickly. "We need to split up and confuse their targeting systems." The first drone smashed through a window, glass flying everywhere. Hyun grabbed a metal pole that had fallen from a display and moved with shocking speed. He struck the drone at a precise point where its armor was weakest. The machine crashed to the floor, disabled. "They have a sensor node under the left side," he called out. "Hit them there." Director Sullivan tried to reach security on her communicator. "We need help immediately." "No time for that," Han said. He turned to Sunwoo. "I need you to access the building systems. Can you trigger the fire suppression foam?" Sunwoo nodded and ran to a control panel. Vraxin approached Hyun, no longer hostile, but respectful. "What do you need us to do, human?" the Draxian asked. "Your scales can withstand their energy weapons better than others. I need your people to draw their fire, while lighter, faster students attack from behind." Vraxin nodded and gathered his friends. Within minutes, Hyun had transformed a room full of panicked students into an organized defense force. He moved among them, adjusting positions, demonstrating strike points, all while dodging drone attacks himself. When Sunwoo activated the fire suppression system, thick foam filled parts of the room. Just as Hyun had planned, the foam confused the drone's heat sensors, making them easier targets. "Now," Hyun shouted. Teams of students attacked the disoriented drones. Following Hyun's instructions, they disabled drone after drone. Hyun himself moved with impossible speed and precision, taking down the most dangerous targets. General Kraz watched from the doorway, his eyes wide. He had seen these moves before, on a battlefield years ago. When the last drone fell, the room went quiet. Everyone stared at Hyun. He stood in the center of the room, breathing calmly despite the chaos. He no longer looked like a simple, aging student. He stood like a commander on a battlefield. Director Sullivan approached him slowly. "Hyun," she said, "or should I call you by your real name?" She held up a data pad with a file open on it. The screen showed a younger Hyun in a military uniform covered with medals. The name under the picture read, General Park Hyun, Earth Defense Force, Supreme Commander. The classified file finally came through. She said, "You're not just any soldier. You're the architect of the Proxima Centauri victory. The military genius who saved Earth from the Craxus invasion." The room fell completely silent. Even the Draxians looked shocked. Taho stared at his roommate in disbelief. Hyun sighed deeply. His secret was out. "Yes," he said simply, "I was General Park. But that was a long time ago. Why hide who you are?" Director Sullivan asked. "Why come here as a student?" Hyun looked around at the young faces watching him. "Because after a lifetime of war, I wanted to learn something different. I wanted to learn peace." The academy buzzed with news about Hyun. Everyone read Juwon's article on their tablets and screens. The headline was simple but powerful. Legendary general Park hiding among U.S. The article told the story of a military hero who had won impossible battles and saved Earth. It showed pictures of Hyun from his war days, standing tall in his uniform, leading troops, accepting medals. Next to these were pictures of him as the quiet student they knew, head down and shoulders hunched. In the dining hall, students moved away when Hyun entered. Some looked afraid. Others stared with wonder. A few seemed angry. Why would they let someone like him in here? One student whispered loudly. He killed thousands in the war. He saved thousands too, another replied. Hyun sat alone, eating quietly as he always had. Only now, his posture was straight, his movements precise. He no longer needed to pretend. Taho approached slowly and sat across from him. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Would you have treated me the same if you knew?" Hyun replied. Taho thought about this. "I don't know. My parents fought in that war. They were under your command at the Battle of Luna Base." Taho paused. "They always said General Park saved them when everyone thought the battle was lost." "I remember Luna Base," Hyun said softly. "We lost good people there. They told me stories about you. How you would never send troops anywhere you wouldn't go yourself. How you slept only 3 hours a night during the worst of the war." Taho shook his head. "I never imagined I was living with the same man." Sunwoo joined them, sitting next to Hyun without hesitation. "I knew you were hiding something," she said. "But even I didn't guess this." More students gathered nearby, listening. General Kraz stood at the door, watching. "Tell us about Proxima Centauri," someone called out. "Is it true you were outnumbered 10-1? Hyun looked uncomfortable. "Those are old stories. They're history," Sunwoo said. "We should learn from it." After a moment, Hyun nodded. "The Krax's fleet had better ships, better weapons. We had nowhere to retreat. Earth was the next target." As he spoke, his voice changed. Students leaned forward to listen. "We couldn't win with force, so we used Earth itself as a weapon." Hyun's eyes seemed far away. "We calculated the exact gravitational pull of our planet and moons. Then we positioned our smaller fleet to push the enemy into that gravity well." He used salt shakers and cups to show the positions. Their own momentum trapped them. When they realized what was happening, it was too late. The students watched, fascinated. Even those who had seemed angry now listened closely. "Why did you come here?" Vraxin asked, standing with a group of Draxians. "Our people respect warriors, but this is a place of peace. After the war, I helped rebuild for 15 years, Hyun explained. But Earth didn't need generals anymore. It needed diplomats. People who could prevent the next war, not just win it." He looked around the room. "I wanted to learn what you're all learning." Director Solvin entered the hall with several Academy officials. "General Park," she said formally, "the Academy Council wishes to speak with you." As Hyun stood to follow her, Vraxin suddenly stepped forward and made a formal Draxian salute, arm across chest, head bowed. One by one, the other Draxian students did the same. "In our culture," Vraxin explained, "a great warrior who seeks wisdom is the most honored of all." Not everyone agreed. A group of students from worlds that had suffered in the war stood with their backs turned. One held a sign reading "War Criminals Not Welcome." Taho watched his roommate walk away with the director. The simple, quiet man who had shared his room for weeks was gone. In his place walked a legend, back straight and head high. The real General Park. What nobody noticed was the small ship landing quietly on the Academy's roof, its markings removed and its signals blocked. Inside were soldiers wearing the insignia of a group thought destroyed in the war. They had come for the general. Director Solvin's office was filled with Academy officials. They sat in a half-circle, facing Hyun. Their faces were serious. "General Park," Director Solvin said, "your presence here creates a difficult situation. Many see you as a hero. Others see you as a reminder of terrible losses. Hyun stood straight, hands behind his back. The humble student was gone. This was the posture of a general facing a difficult mission. "I understand," he said. "I will leave if that is best for the academy." Before anyone could answer, the lights went out. Emergency red lights came on, casting strange shadows across the room. "What's happening?" someone asked. A voice came over the communication system. It spoke in a harsh, mechanical tone. "Attention, Academy. We have taken control of your systems. We have disabled communications with the outside. We are the last warriors of Craxus, and we have come for the human General Park." Director Solvin tried her communicator. "It's dead. They've blocked all signals." Hyun's face showed no surprise, only calm focus. The Craxus military was defeated years ago. These must be extremists who never accepted the peace treaty. "What do they want?" an official asked. "Revenge," Hyun said simply. "I led the final battle that destroyed their main fleet." Suddenly, the door burst open. Taeho and Sunwoo rushed in, breathing hard. "Armed soldiers are in the main building," Taeho shouted. "They're taking students hostage." "They have at least 30 fighters," Sunwoo added, "all with military-grade weapons." A loud explosion shook the building. Through the window, they could see smoke rising from the east wing. "Director Solvin," Hyun said, his voice now fully that of a commander. "How many students are in the academy today?" "Over 600, she answered, "plus about 50 staff." Hyun nodded. "These soldiers will use them as leverage. They want me to surrender." "And if you do?" Taeho asked. "They'll kill me, then likely destroy the academy anyway. Their kind doesn't leave witnesses." Director Solvin tried to stand but fell back into her chair. Blood stained her blue suit. She had been injured by flying glass from the explosion. "I cannot defend the academy in this condition," she said weakly. All eyes turned to Hyun. After a moment of silence, he spoke. "The academy has over 600 students from 50 different worlds, many with special abilities or physical traits. If organized properly, they could be more than enough to defeat 30 soldiers." "You want to use students to fight?" an official asked, shocked. "I want to use students to defend themselves," Hyun corrected. "There's a difference." Taeho stepped forward. "I'll help. My parents taught me some of what they learned from you." "Me too," Sunwoo said. "My analysis skills could be useful." The door opened again. Vraxin stood there with 5 other Draxian students. "We heard everything. The Draxian house stands ready, General." Hyun looked at Director Solvin. She nodded weakly. "Do what you must to save my students." Within minutes, Hyun had moved to the Academy's security office. He used the cameras to see where the Craxus soldiers were. Then he sent Taeho, Sunwoo, and others to gather students who hadn't been captured yet. "The academy itself will be our weapon," Hyun explained to the growing group around him. "We know every room, every passage. They don't." He divided students into teams based on their abilities. Flying species would scout. Strong species would create barricades. Those with technical skills would work on restoring communications. "Will we attack them?" a young Draxian student asked, eager for battle. "No," Hyun said firmly. "Our mission is to protect, not destroy. We will trap them, isolate them, and wear them down until help arrives." The students looked nervous but determined. Many had never faced real danger before. Hyun looked at their young faces and felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. He had led troops into battle many times. But these weren't soldiers. They were students who had come to learn peace, not war. "I will not order anyone to risk their life," Hyun said. "If you wish to find a safe place to hide, I understand." Not one student moved to leave. "Then let's begin," Hyun said, unfolding a map of the academy on the table. "This is how we take back our school." The academy had become a battlefield, but unlike any battle Hyun had commanded before, this one had different rules. No one was to be killed if it could be avoided. The students were to protect, not attack. West Hall secured, came Tahoe's voice. We've redirected the air system to pump sleeping gas into room 310 where 5 enemy soldiers are holding 20 students. Draxians have created barricades on floors 3 and 4, Vraxin reported. The enemy cannot move between levels now. For 3 hours, the students followed Hyun's plan. They used their knowledge of the academy to trap soldiers in small groups. They used the building's systems in clever ways, changing gravity levels in some rooms, creating distractions with light and sound, blocking doors at key moments. The Kraxis soldiers found themselves confused and separated. They had expected to face one old human general, not hundreds of students working as a coordinated team. In the security office, Hyun watched it all on screens. He directed teams, adjusted plans, and prepared for the final phase. A small group of technical students had almost restored communications to call for help. Then a message came from the leader of the Kraxis soldiers. He appeared on the main screen, his face scared and angry. Behind him stood 20 captured students, including Sunwoo. General Park, the Kraxis leader said, "I am Commander Vex. You have 1 hour to surrender yourself, or these hostages will die. No more games." The screen went dark. Everyone in the room looked at Hyun. Hyun studied the map. The Kraxis leader and his main force were in the Grand Hall. There was no way to reach them without being seen. "I will surrender," Hyun said calmly. "No," several students shouted at once. "They'll kill you," Tahoe said. "And probably the hostages too. Not if we do this correctly." Hyun pointed to the map. "I will go in alone, but I need teams here, here, and here." He marked positions around the Grand Hall. "They must be ready to act when I give the signal." Hyun explained his plan quickly. Some students looked doubtful, but they trusted him now. 1 hour later, Hyun walked alone into the Grand Hall. His hands were raised to show he carried no weapons. Commander Vex stood at the center, surrounded by his soldiers and the hostages. "General Park," Vex said with hate in his voice, "the great hero of Earth. Do you remember the Battle of Proxima Centauri?" "I remember every battle," Hyun said simply. "My family was on the civilian ships behind our fleet. When you destroy our forces, those ships were caught in the crossfire." Vex's voice shook with anger. "My wife and children died because of your victory." Hyun's face showed genuine sadness. "I didn't know there were civilian ships there. The Kraxis command never told us." "Would it have mattered?" Vex demanded. "Would the great General Park have chosen differently?" Hyun took a step forward. "Yes, I would have. That's why I'm here at this academy, to learn how to solve conflicts without such terrible costs." Vex laughed bitterly. Noble words from a man with blood on his hands. "We both have blood on our hands," Hyun said. "The question is, will we add more today?" As Hyun spoke, he noticed Sunwoo had managed to free her hands. Other students were positioned perfectly, just as he had planned. But instead of giving the attack signal, Hyun made a different choice. He knelt down on the floor before Vex. "I am truly sorry for your family," Hyun said. "Their deaths were not what I fought for. Take me if you must, but let these students go. They are the future we should both be fighting for now." Vex raised his weapon, aimed at Hyun's head. The room went completely silent. Then a Draxian student spoke up. "On my world, the greatest honor is when a warrior learns to choose peace." Slowly, Vex lowered his weapon. "My revenge won't bring them back, will it?" "No," Hyun said gently. "But perhaps we can honor them by creating something better." At that moment, Academy security forces burst in, having finally received the distress call. But they found no battle, just a former general and a grieving man sitting together, talking about loss and hope. 2 years later, at graduation, Hyun stood with Tahoe, Sunwoo, and Vraxin. All wore the Academy's diplomatic court uniform. "Professor Park," Tahoe said, "your new conflict resolution class is the most popular at the Academy." Hyun smiled. "Teaching how to prevent wars is more satisfying than winning them." Director Solvin approached, fully recovered from her injuries. "Ready for your graduation speech, Professor?" Hun nodded and walked to the podium. Looking out at the faces of many species, he began. "My greatest victory wasn't on any battlefield. It was here, in these halls, where former enemies became friends, and where I finally learned that true strength isn't in winning conflicts, but in preventing them."